how long after you move from a place do you get to claim the place? I'm thinking about this because of N.O.R.E and Peter Rosenberg's little back and forth, where N.O.R.E went to do the new morning show with Merrill, and he was like, "Yo, it feels good to hear some New York. The show sounds like and feels like New York now."
Yeah.
To which Pete took offense.
He was doing
because
a lot.
Pete is,
I love Pete, but that was a lot.
I thought he made a lot of valid points.
How? I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think there's anything harmful in saying that I like hearing New York voices on the premier New York radio station. Because none of them, respectfully, are from New York, and I think that's okay. It's okay to It's not saying you weren't good at your job. It's not saying your show wasn't dope. It's not saying any of that shit. It's just like it's nice to hear someone from New York on Hot.
I agree with that. But for people that are mutually fly with both Merrill and the old morning show, and you go to the new show and say, "Oh, finally, and it feels good," I could see how it could come off a way to Pete.
The sauce, N.O.R.E sounded sincere, and he didn't sound. He didn't sound mean in his. It's nice to hear New York voices on a New York radio station. If he said it like how you said it, I would completely understand.
But Pete's response was, I've been in New York for 20 years now. I've been repping underground New York hip hop more than anybody in the position. Married a New York woman, had my baby in New York. I've been in New York. And on the flip side, N.O.R.E hasn't lived here for 15 years. And it wasn't until he got to the end that I was like, interesting. How long do we get to claim a place or act like we're in tune with the ongoings of the place while you don't live there?
I don't think he did that.
I can speak as someone who's not from here. I've been here for 20 years. I still claim Elmira. I wouldn't complain if someone said, "You don't sound like a New Yorker." I don't think that that's out of pocket because I'm not from New York. I think that's okay.
But sounded like it seemed like they were talking past each other because I agree with you. It's like, if you're not from there, you're not from there. You can always say that. Right. But Rosenberg's point was, I put on for New York. In terms of the artists, in terms of the radio, all these other things.
And he did.
And that's what to me.
And his point was, I'm actively in New York right now during a mass exodus.
Right. Doing New York shit
here.
while you in Miami.
Yeah. I'm here and you're not.
And
why do you get to say that to me?
Yeah.
But he could still say, because I'm from here, I grew up here, I'm a New Yorker. Now that I touch down back in the city, whether it be 10 years, 15 years, it just feels good to hear it sounding like New York.
But why if you listening to Florida radio?
So I'm not in Florida
I'm listening to y'all more.
But look, the fact that
and N.O.R.E is my brother and I love him.
I'm not in Florida right now. I'm back home in New York.
Nigga, you here for 2 days. Well, you give a about how the morning radio sounds.
Joe, if I am listening to Florida radio every single day and now I come home and touch down, it feels good to hear New York radio or New York voices on the radio. I think that wherever you spent majority of your time, you can't say N.O.R.E's not a New Yorker. Right. If I stood here, I went to jail here, I ran the streets here, I had my first fist fight here, I graduated high school, I did all of these things here, I'm certified stamped as a New Yorker. I don't give a if I moved to Wyoming and lived there for the last 30 years of my life, I'm a New Yorker. You can't take that away from somebody because they've been gone for 10 years.
But you gotta be mindful when you have the relationships with people.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm talking about the one thing. I'm just talking about the one thing.
Yeah.
You can't say that N.O.R.E's not.
Y'all are right, but I'm split down the middle on this. Y'all are making fair points. I'm split down the middle.
I'm not dissing.
N.O.R.E made the war report, so you can in New York. So I mean, that's it. He could go move to West Bubblefuck after that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's cemented in the history of New York.
But if I'm a Chicago DJ and Kanye just happens to ride through Chicago tomorrow, like it's about time Chicago radio sound like Chicago, and like he ain't been there in, I don't even know the last time he lived in Chicago. Like, I could see the person who's a transplant but been holding down Chicago being like, the f*** are you talking about? But I also could see Kanye liking to hear Chicago voices on the radio. That's what I'm saying. To me, they both true. It just seemed like an unnecessary.
I can see both sides. But you can't never say Kanye not a Chicagoan.
Right. That's why I'm saying. It seems like they both could have just had their feelings and thoughts and not even had this exchange.
N.O.R.E's comment didn't seem like a dig. It seemed like a big up.
Yeah, he just bigging his man up.
It does come off like a dig just because Pete and them just got exiled from here. And now you just took the slot over. And now you're sitting here saying, "Oh, it feels good to hear New York again." So what you trying to say? It wasn't New York when I was here. You've been in New York.
Yeah, there's
in the
no
time
way
frame.
for that to not look like.
It's still a dig, yo.
Sorry,
it's still a dig, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't intended, that's a dig. This is not your first time in New York in 15 years.
Listen.
So you're speaking to the times you've been in New York, and it ain't sound like New York.
But
go ahead.
Does this conversation happen if Rosenberg still at high? Like
no.
And I don't, obviously, in the sense of like if he had said like I wish New York radio sounded like New York. In other words, does Rosenberg ignore this if they're not repositioning for the new with the new gig and with the new platform and all this stuff they're doing, which I like. Is this also like I'm gonna just seize this moment? Was it an overreaction for the moment?
I don't think so. I think he took it as a dig and was rightfully.
What did we say when they appeared to be hiring a bunch of people from out of town to replace Rosenberg and them on the radio show? What was the general consensus by New York media?
We ain't seen them two Atlanta comedians. Where they was from? We ain't seen them since.
Atlanta. Nah, they on like Saturday.
Do y'all notice real quick that there's a lot of, now that Ebro and them was off the radio, a lot of people are like on them a little bit.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't shitting on them before when it was. I mean, I seen it, but it's a lot more now. Like,
niggas wait till you get fired to
niggas were scared before.
They were gatekeepers and stuff. They call Ebro a gatekeeper and stuff like that. I don't know. You guys know the logistics and the ins and outs of the radio. It's kind of.
They're all doing great, so it's corny to try to shit on them while they're.
Ebro, I like the changes you're making to your show in real time. I like the set. I like the graphics. I like the topics. I like what you got going on over there.
It's a great show.
Yeah. Shout out to Ebro, Peter, and Laura.
Laura, yeah, and everything they're doing individually too is great.
Yeah.
New Joe Budden.